Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Heavy Repping. My name is John Trem Davidson, and I'm here once again in our super mega chicken test location in the southwest of England. So this week I thought what I'd do is talk a little bit about technique. Now, technique is something that a lot of people talk about on YouTube, which is not surprising, but my particular interest in plectrums means that I've got a different slant on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through my own picking technique, because that's all I can really show you, but I'm going to do it with picks of different thicknesses and types. So of course I'm going to use the stick and the pedal board, but I'm going to be going into one of the greatest amps ever made, my realistic X12 keyboard amp. And the reason for that is because it's less about the sound this week and more about what my right hand is doing. So I'm going to attempt to film it properly close up so that you can see exactly what my hand is doing, and hopefully this will help you not only to improve your own technique but also to get the right pick for what you're trying to do. So let's begin. One of the key aspects about choosing a plectrum when it comes to your own particular style is how, not just what you're playing, but also how you want to play. So for example, if you are an especially shreddy player and you like doing a lot of economy picking, you'll probably favour something like a Jazz 3, but it is worth noting that there's no hard and fast rule for this. I see plenty of pick collectors online posting pictures of bands who just use completely ordinary picks, although it has to be said that a lot of those, what you'll find if you watch rig rundowns and all that sort of stuff, which if you're here you probably do, if you watch rig rundowns and so on, you'll find that with some artists what they do is they use a particular very specific type of pick for stage performance, and then they have bags of totally ordinary picks with special prints on them to toss out into the crowd at the end. Billy Gibbons is a good example of this, Ghost are another, but it means that what you see that a collector has come from the band, but doesn't mean that it's necessarily what the band have actually used. Many collectors will stipulate this, but that is by the by. So with this in mind, what I'm going to suggest to you is that, and this is only a suggestion of course, but what I'm going to suggest to you is that thinner plectrums like this are much better for doing a lot of strummed work, for acoustic work and so on, whereas pointier, smaller picks like this are much better for doing single note work as a general rule. That being said, we're going to talk about some bigger and smaller picks as well, so let's sit down and get on with the heavy business. So what I'm going to do is talk about ordinary straight up right hand technique. We're going to start with this, which is a normal sort of 0.6, 0.7 351 shape pick from James's Home of Tone, and I've selected this because I like giving James a thumbs up because he's a great bloke, but also because this is the sort of pick that anyone can use and they can get in any guitar shop and so on and so forth in terms of dimensions and so on. And what I'm going to do is show you more the grip than anything else, because I think that's something that isn't talked about enough. So the way I started playing was to hold the pick like that, which is with your thumb like this. Now that is hard wrong, but you'll see players in photographs, you know, really digging in that way. The angle that you come into the strings makes a big difference. If I'm trying to go through the string and I'm coming down like that, you can hear that pop, 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 pop. So the best thing really is to come in at an angle and that way you've got less resistance, you're coming in diagonally and pushing through the strings back and forth a lot easier. And the same thing goes for alternate picking. So let's start with some straight up strumming. So I showed you some C strums and cross picking and ordinary strumming, let's say, but I know that a lot of you are going to be really interested in more aggressive techniques when it comes to picking. So let's talk a little bit about trem picking. I would say that for this style, having a smaller jazz 3 orientated pick like this would be what you need. This is a Dawman Shredline 2mm made of Delrin. It's like a more pronounced jazz 3. I hope what you're noticing is that my wrist is quite loose. So one of the key things is to make sure you don't lock your hand up like this, because all that will happen then is that you're putting too much strain down here. If you squeeze like this, you're just going to wear your wrists out and make it more difficult for yourself. So you want to have it, when you wave, if you just take your hand and shake it like this, that is kind of what you want it to do. It's a little bit like if you sing, you really want your singing to be like you talking but in pitch, because that's the most natural thing to do. So if I do a little bit of this, and you can see what I'm talking about. So, you might be thinking, that's great, but what about if I don't play metal and I don't play, you know, strummy stuff? What about if I'm playing jazz? You want to have a little bit softer approach with your right hand, and this is more about, it's more about downstrokes than upstrokes. So when you try it, when you're playing, think about the rhythm, the feel that you're trying to accomplish, and let your hand do that. If you're a straight up metal cat and you're used to trem picking and you're used to all that sort of stuff, then remember that you're not doing that. Remember that you're trying to you're just trying to go in a little softer, and especially if you're trying to do gypsy jazz. So let's say we're toned back. I know that's not gypsy gypsy jazz, but it's jazz, that's all I've got, so you'll just have to accept it. There's no need to put that much force in. This is a really, really important point. If you are going to steam in all the time, like, let's say you're playing like... then that's achieving a completely different thing. If I play that clean, you can hear the strings going pop, 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 and exploding and doing all this. But if I, still in the bridge pickup, if I just approach it a little bit more genteel, see how much softer it comes out? One of the things that I would really encourage you to do is to think about the physical side of what it is you're trying to get across. If you want to play really aggressively, then what you're going to want to do is hold the pick, like choke down on the pick so you've got less plectrum coming out. You really like, you can really get in about it then. But if you're wanting to strum, then you don't have to have it just opens everything up. Having less poking out makes it more hard and more focused. Having a little bit more pick in your hands makes you play this awful chord. So let's talk about alternate picking. I've got my drive on. So if I back my volume off to there, not touching my pedals, there's my pedals going off and on. So I've got my drive clean sound, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a scale descending, and then I'll do the same thing with the drive on, and I'm going to show you something important. So here we are, relatively clean. Now, if I do the same thing, but with the gain flat out, so I'm not putting that much physical effort in, and this is the important point. The important point I'm trying to make here is you don't need to have loads and loads of force in this hand. What you need to have is correct technique that allows you to say what you want to say without you having to overexert yourself. Because the less effort you have to put in physically, the more your wrists are going to last, the more you're going to be able to play, and the more your enjoyment you're going to get out of what you're doing. So, I hope what you've taken away from this is that the amount of force that's required to achieve what you want doesn't need to be this situation. It's also worth noting that I spent a very, very long time playing super, super hard using really thin picks, and the harder my picks have got, the less physical force I need to do what I need to do. So, if you are somebody who plays really, really hard and just can't help yourself, get some thinner picks. If you are somebody that plays really, really light and can't help yourself, get some heavy ones. You will honestly find it makes such a difference to what it is that you're doing. If you like any Infomore, I think they did that track Misery Business. If you would like any more information on how to choose a pick and what to look for, there is an article about it at heavyrepping.com, and you can always hit me up on Instagram at heavyrepping or email itsheavyrepping@gmail.com, and you can ask me whatever you like. I'll do my absolute best to help you. I hope you found this video at least mildly informative. I'm not really a teacher of any description, but I've tried to do my best in this instance. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it, and it helps the channel grow and me grow the channel for you guys, because that's why I'm doing it. In the meantime, my name is John Tron Davidson. This is Heavy Repping, and I shall be back next week with more plectrological magnificence. So just remember, if you don't know what to do, rep hard, rep heavy.